I was gonna rip his heart out, I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror, no, I'm Alexander, he's no Alexander. I'm the best ever, there's never been anybody ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from their claw, there's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart, I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
Welcome back to the Bout the Ropes podcast here on Keep It Real Boxing. I am your host, Cypherbox, and let's get into it. Listen, it's been a long time since I've done one of these. It's a long time since I've done a podcast, any kind of video on my YouTube channel. Okay? Quick touch on the intro. Guys, warning to all you fanboys and fangirls out there. Listen, if you're one of these boxing fans, and I know there's a lot of them out there, who are emotionally attached to their favorite fighter as if they were their boyfriend or their girlfriend, and that you have to come running to their defense every time someone shared an opinion that didn't agree with yours or your narratives, this ain't the channel for you. Let me just warn you now. Seriously, this is not the place for you. Okay? So go back to whatever channel it is you love listening to that pushes the narratives that you love to hear about your favorite fighters. I am just a boxing fan giving his opinion on what he's hearing, seeing, and reading. Okay? I'm not saying you have to agree with me. This is just my opinion. So like I said, if you're one of those sensitive boxing fans, turn back now. Don't stress yourself out. Don't waste your time. Yeah, I barely read the comment section anyway, so you're just going to be wasting your energy. All right? Now I thought, if I'm going to get back into this, where do I start? I'm a little bit off. Remember what I said? Yes, I'm going to be a bit rusty, even with information a little bit. You know, even though I've been keeping my Instagram page up to date, which I'm proud to say is now over 15,000 followers. But, I thought, where do I start? And I thought there's no better place to start than with the number one, pound for pound, superstar of the sport. That's right, Mr. Canelo Alvarez. First of all, I want to say congratulations to Canelo for becoming the first undisputed champion at super middleweight in history. You know, that's a great achievement. Beat Caleb Plant, the last piece of the puzzle, which was that IBF belt. You know, did a fantastic job in knocking him out. Great performance, no complaints, yeah? However, I do want to talk about what came out in the aftermath. Now, this is something I didn't agree with at all. I'm sure a lot of you will have a difference of opinion to me. However, I'm going to talk about that decision that he was going to make to fight Makabu at Cruiserweight for the WBC Cruiserweight title of the world. I don't see what that would have got him. A lot of people are pushing the whole thing, oh, well, it's a fifth belt at a fifth weight, that would have made him a 5-weight world champion, etc, etc. All right, whatever. But you know what? Where was the challenge in fighting Makabu? I'm sorry, Canelo regularly spars with heavyweights. Andy Ruiz is in his camp, and Frank Sanchez, the heavyweight Frank Sanchez, has come out openly and said that him and Canelo have sparred many times and said that Canelo hits like a heavyweight. Canelo comes in at his fights at 180 pounds on fight night, roughly around that much. Where's the challenge? You're picking the weakest cruiserweight champion and expecting everyone to say, hey, well done. Well, sorry, I'm not going to say that. Yeah, I was disappointed that he was going to take that route. Thankfully, that talk has seemed to be swept under the rug and they're moving on to other things. But, like, if he took that fight, I would have been seriously peed off. If he made that fight, seriously, I would have been. A lot of people say, well, Roy Jones Jr. did it. He went up to heavyweight and fought John Ruiz. Okay, and what, you want me to give Roy Jones Jr. a round of applause for that? It's the same thing. Yeah? Like, if he said that he was going to go up to cruiserweight to First fight Makabu, take his belt, easiest champ, I'll take his belt first, and then I'll fight the other champions and unify. That's a bit different. But to me, it was just like a little title grab, just to make it out like, hey, I'm a five division champion. I didn't see any point of it, you know, and I'm kind of glad that that thing kind of has fizzled out, and I hope it's not going to happen. Yeah, I hope we're not going to see that ever, in my opinion. I think there's better things he could be doing. There's other super middleweights out there he should be taking on, in my opinion. There's the light heavyweight division, Arthur Beterbiev, you know, everyone's talking about that one. That'll be a good fight as well. I think there's better options out there. And let's be honest, how many of you really knew about Makabu? You diehard Canelo fans, how many of you really knew about him? I barely know who he is, and the reason I know who he is because he fought Tony Bellew many years ago for a vacant WBC cruiserweight title, and Bellew knocked him out in 3 rounds. The next time I saw Makabu fight was on the undercard, I think, of Anthony Yarde and Sergey Kovalev, and I barely remember it. So, yeah, look, I wouldn't have rated that move at all. I'm glad that's kind of like, yeah, whatever, that's been pushed aside, and there's talks of other fights potentially happening for Canelo Alvarez this year. So let's get into the latest news about Canelo. It recently came out that DAZN have offered him a 2-fight deal. The first fight against Demetrius Andrade at light heavyweight, he's holding the WBA belt, and then a third fight against Triple G. Doesn't really make much sense to me why he would go up to light heavyweight to fight Demetrius Andrade and then come back down to 168 pounds to fight Triple G. And I'm assuming the Triple G fight would happen at 168 pounds because I don't believe Canelo can make 160. So I'm assuming that's where that fight would take place. The way I look at it, if he's going to go up to light heavyweight, then he might as well go up there and take on all the light heavyweights, Joe Smith Jr., Arthur Beterbiev, Demetrius Andrade, etc., and just unify. Why go up and then come back down? It just doesn't make sense, in my opinion. However, Eddie Reynoso has come out and said, Canelo's trainer and manager, and has said that nothing has been confirmed, that they are also in talks with the PBC for a potential event for Canelo with one of their fighters. Now, I'm assuming that's Jamal Charlo or David Benavidez. Charlo has got himself in a little bit of a pickle, got himself in a bit of situation where he's been arrested for assault, I believe it is, or 3rd-degree assault, something like that. He's been released on bail. That could pose a problem for making that fight. David Benavidez, due to fight David Lemieux, I believe, recently in P2. So that could be the next fight for Canelo if PBC can, you know, come up with a good enough offer that will lure Canelo away from the zone for his next fight. However, on the flip side, there are other fighters out there for Canelo as well at 168 still. We've got Demetrius Andrade now moving up to 168. Okay? I don't think anyone is in any doubt that Demetrius Andrade is probably the most avoided fighters, one of the most avoided fighters right now. Okay? He's already fought Plant, yeah? He's already fought Jacobs, can't really do that. So the three real fights that are left for him at super middleweight, in my opinion, are David Benavidez, Andrade, and Jamal Charlo. Jamal Charlo fight, I don't know whether that's actually going to happen. So that leaves Benavidez and that leaves Andrade. Okay? Now, a lot of people are going to turn around and say, well, who's Andrade for? Andrade's got no one on his record. Who's Benavidez for? Benavidez has got no one on his record. A lot of people want to see the Benavidez fight. Some people don't. You can guess which ones don't want to see it, or some of them are pulling away from it. I'm hearing a lot of Canelo fans. I see their comments on my Instagram page when I put posts up about Canelo and Andrade or Canelo and Benavidez. I hear it. I read a lot of these comments, and there's a lot of guys out there who don't want to see those fights for Canelo. I don't understand why. The actual narrative behind it, I don't get either. Is that they're saying that who have they fought? Granted, I agree. You look at Benavidez's record, who's he for? You look at Andrade's record, who is he for? I understand that. But here's my point to that. Okay? Look at Canelo's last 4 fights. Okay? Who did those opponents that he fought in the last year, who did they fight? Who is on their record? Right? Billy Joe Saunders, for example. Look at his record on BoxRec. Canelo is the only elite level fighter he's got on his record. The rest of the guys you don't even know. They're not even top-notch competition. And please don't say David Lemieux. He's not. Okay? A lot of you will say, but he was the champion. Yeah, but that just proves that anyone in this day and age can become a champion. All you've got to do is pay the sanctioning fees, listen to what the organization's telling you to do, and you do it. Anyone can be a champion. It's whether you're a good champion of quality. Now, I'm not saying Billy Joe Saunders isn't a quality fighter. He's not a good fighter. However, when you look at his record, who has he fought to achieve that world title status, that world champion status? So therefore, what has he done to really get that fight against Canelo? The reason he got that fight was because he had a belt. Yep. Same with Caleb Grant. Who did he fight? After he beat Uskataku and took his title, who did he fight? He didn't fight anyone. He didn't take on David Benavidez, who was calling him out. Did the same thing. Look at Callum Smith. Look at his record. Who did he fight? The best name on Callum Smith's record is a broken down version of George Groves. Yeah? Who I believe retired after that loss to Callum Smith. So again, who did Callum Smith fight? Look at Rocky Fielding. Who did Rocky Fielding fight? Rocky Fielding picked up his world title after, I think, the opponent of the former champion, I can't even know who that was, dropped out, and they said, hey, Rocky, do you want to step in last minute? And Grind, give Rocky his due, picked up the belt. But if you look at his record, who's he fought? Nobody. It's because he had a belt. Those guys have got one thing in common. They all had the belts that Canelo wanted, but they didn't have any notable names on their record. So when you say, who did David Benavidez fight? Who has Andrade fight? Who has Jamal Charlo fought? My question to you is, who have any of the last 4 or 5 opponents of Canelo fought on their record? So that narrative doesn't fly with me, guys. If he can give a shot to Billy Joe Saunders, who's fought no one, if he could give a shot to Callum Smith, who fought no one. Callum Smith, oh my God, remember what happened against John Ryder? He lost that fight to John Ryder. Everyone knows he lost that fight to John Ryder. He got gifted a decision for crying out loud. He was lucky to still be holding on to his titles, but he still got a shot against Canelo. Yeah, Rocky Fielding even got a shot against Canelo. Caleb Plant got a shot against Canelo. Yes, they had something of value to Canelo, I get it, but at the same time, wouldn't you want to say that Canelo moved on to light heavyweight after clearing out the whole division and leaving no stone unturned? I know I would. Yeah? So I think he needs to fight Charlo, he needs to fight Benavidez, and he needs to fight Andrade before he moves on. Now let's talk about the Triple G fight. Potential third fight with Triple G, should I say. Like, is anyone really interested in that fight? Let's be real here, right? I thought the first fight and the second fight were good fights. Yeah, I don't class them as classics. A lot of people do. I don't. I think they were good fights, and that's it. I don't know whether I want to see a third fight. It's not something I'm yearning for. It's not something that I'm craving. Triple G's now, what, 39, 40 years old? And let's talk about his last performance, which was against, Shevchenko, right? In my opinion, I personally felt he lost that fight. A lot of people felt he lost that fight. Like a lot of people felt Jacobs beat him when Triple G fought Jacobs. I was one of them, okay? You could disagree with me, that's fine. However, I felt like he should have gave Shevchenko a rematch. Instead, he fought Shevchenko. I don't think he fought again after that. And he's gone radio silent. Why? Because he's waiting for that Canelo payday. Okay? And this is the worrying thing that I'm going to lead into this, because I'm going to criticize a lot of fighters. You know, I've said a lot about Canelo, but I am going to criticize Andrade and Charlo's and all that sort of stuff. So just give me a moment, yeah? I don't believe that Triple G has got what he used to have back in the day. Age catches up to all of us. I just don't think this fight would go the way the last two fights we did, which were very close fights, in my personal opinion. And I don't think it's worth them making that fight. However, if they made that fight, I wouldn't have too much of a problem with it. I'll still watch it, but it's not one that I'm really craving. Okay? And that's my take on the whole Triple G third fight. What has he done? You know, Canelo himself come out recently and said, where is he? What has he done? What is he doing? He's actually done nothing. You know? And this is what a lot of these guys are doing. They're just protecting themselves and not taking any risk because they're hoping and sitting there hoping and waiting for that Canelo payday. And don't get me wrong, I get it. Canelo has the power. He's got that power that Floyd Mayweather used to have in boxing. Right? And these guys don't want to mess up the bag that they could potentially get. But at the same time, you're hurting the sport by doing that. Yeah? Be a throwback fighter, for crying out loud. Mix it up with the other guys. Alright? Let's look at it. Look, Charlo's one of those fighters. Let's talk about it. What's he done? He's just sitting there. He could have fought. He could have gone up to 168, fought Benavidez. Benavidez has been calling him out. He could have fought Demetrius Andrade. To be fair, he did offer Demetrius Andrade a contract a few years ago, I think it was. And Andrade turned it down because he said it wasn't lucrative enough, which was stupid on Andrade's point of view. Because Andrade, let's be honest, yeah, needs an opponent. It doesn't matter about the money for him at the moment. He needs that fight. So he should have taken that fight, and then later on he can demand more money. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. You look at Benavidez calling out Caleb Plant. He didn't want to fight Caleb Plant because Caleb Plant was holding himself, you know, keeping himself safe, holding himself back because he wanted that Canelo bag. Yeah. You look at Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, right? All those guys didn't want to mix it up with anyone else. The reason being is because they knew they had a belt and they knew Canelo would come calling pretty soon. And they wanted to get that bag. Charlo doesn't want to fight, hasn't been mixing it up with anyone else in my opinion, because guess what? He wants to protect that bag. Yeah? Andrade, to my opinion, made a stupid move by not taking Charlo's contract a couple of years ago and taking that fight and putting a name on his record to help him say, hey, Canelo, give me a shot. Yeah? David Benavidez. Now, David Benavidez has come out recently in the last few days, the last week, and said that he will fight Andrade after David Lemieux. He's saying no one wants to fight Andrade, I'll fight him. And I thought, wow, okay, cool. I like that. I like that kind of attitude. I like the energy. Yeah? Now, he said that. He said, I'll fight him. He goes, I'm tired of talking smack with all these guys who don't want to fight me. No one wants to fight Andrade, I'll fight him. And I thought, okay, cool. However, I just saw an interview on the Boxing Voice with Nesta Gibbs. Nesta Gibbs was talking to David Benavidez's promoter. I forgot his name now. Yeah, Samson, is it? Anyway, he was talking to him and he was asking him about the Canelo fight. And he said, yeah, David Benavidez has agreed to even take less money to make the Canelo fight. He said he's made a lot of money in his last few fights. Money's not an issue. He's happy to take a pay cut so Canelo can get paid more money so he could get that fight. And I thought, wow, okay, that's impressive. You know, David Benavidez saying, like, hey, I'll take less money to take the Canelo fight. Pay him more the money. Just get him in the ring. That's all I care about. It's the title I care about. Yeah, it's about getting that name in the ring with me. When I beat him, then I can make more money going on. I thought, okay, cool. But then as the interview went on, they started asking about Andrade, Demetrius Andrade. And David, apparently, David Benavidez and his team, his promoter said this on the Boxing Voice. Yeah, live on the Boxing Voice. Go check it out. He said that they will not take any less than $7 million to fight Demetrius Andrade. And obviously he was asked the question, well, hold on, you said you would take a pay cut to fight, you'll take a pay cut to fight Canelo, but you want to ask for $7 million to fight Andrade? And then he's like, He's like, well, no, not really. He goes, because Eddie Hearn offered Jamal Charlo $7 million to fight Andrade, and obviously Jamal Charlo turned it down. So he goes, no, we need more than that. Because there was a little bit of an issue with the translation of his English, right? His English isn't too great. And he's like, what? You need more? So what, like 10 million to fight Demetrius Andrade? He said, yeah. He said, well, why? Why would you ask for so much money? That doesn't make sense. And his promoter, David Benavidez' promoter, said, basically, no one watches Andrade. No one's coming to watch him. So in that case, we want more money to take on a guy that no one wants to watch and no one wants to fight. So basically, they see Andrade as a high-risk, low-reward fight for David Benavidez. Andrade is a high-risk, low-reward fight. So they want to make sure they get rewarded well for taking that high-risk fight with a guy that no one wants to watch, apparently. So again, money going to get in the way of that. I was really impressed by David Benavidez over the last few days because the way he was talking. But then for him to turn around and his team to turn around, his promoter to turn around and say that to the boxing boys, I thought, here we go again. See, look, we're not going to get another fight now. Because I don't see Eddie Hearn paying David Benavidez 10 million. Do you? I swear it was. If I remember right, he was asking for 10 million, his promoter. He was saying they were going to ask for 10 million or something like that. Or they had to start, the starting price would have to be at 7 million least, and then they would negotiate what they felt was fair. But it's somewhere definitely between 7 or 10 million. That's crazy, man. But that's how fights don't get made. When you start talking ridiculous like that, 7 million is probably more than enough, maybe even too much. And the guy's saying that it may even cost about 10 million to get Benavidez in the ring with Andrade. Like, that's what I'm talking about. These guys aren't helping themselves. They're pricing themselves out of fights. They're making it difficult. They're holding off. All of them, they're just waiting for that bag. They're just thinking about the money. I just need that one fight. I want that Canelo fight because that's the big money fight. And I'm not fighting no one else. I just want Canelo. That's it. Keep me safe till Canelo comes knocking. You know? But it also shows the power that Canelo has and the influence that Canelo has in the sport and the amount of money he can bring you. Give you your biggest payday. You know? But in my opinion, look, all these guys, in my opinion, should be mixing it up, though. Yeah, if you're not getting the Canelo fight, Andrade should be fighting Benavidez. Benavidez should be fighting Charlo. Charlo should be fighting Andrade. Andrade should be fighting Jacobs. I still like to see that fight. Plant should fight Charlo, and Plant should fight Benavidez. And Billy Joe Saunders, if he was still active, I don't know if he's going to be. I think Billy Joe Saunders is going to fight Chris Eubank Jr., take one last payday and retire. But do you get what I mean? I heard Callum Smith's moving up to 175 anyway now. Which is not good. I don't know if that's a good thing for him because eventually Canelo's going to move up there as well. But these guys should mix it up, and they're not. Instead, they're all avoiding each other. They're all ducking each other. They're all pricing themselves out of potential fights with each other to protect themselves so they get that Canelo payday. Yeah, and it's starting to get annoying, man, because we're not seeing the fights we want to see in boxing. That's the way I see it, straight up. Okay, so moving on from the middleweight division, that's all I've really got to say about the middleweights and the super middleweights, etc. Right, and Canelo. Let's move on from that. Let's talk about the lightweight divisions. Let's talk about those 130 pounders, those 135 pounders. Yeah. Let's start with Teofimo Lopez. Look, first of all, credit to him. Yeah, he went in there, fought Lomachenko, beat Lomachenko, and became the man in a sense. Yeah, he beat the man to become the man. Great fight, really enjoyed it. You know, I felt it was a bit close. I think he definitely nudged it by a couple of rounds, in my opinion. Yes, there was a lot of Lomachenko fans out there, as always. There's always fanboys out there who are upset when their favourite fighter loses, right? Saying that, oh, Lomachenko had an injury. Even Lomachenko himself, I remember he did a interview with a channel in his own country, in a YouTube channel, and made a hint that, you know, Lopez didn't get paid enough money to pay off the judges and stuff like that. And he took a picture of himself in the hospital after having his shoulder surgery. And then Lopez came back and said, well, my ankle or whatever, my Achilles heel was injured. You didn't see me complaining. And then he took a picture of him after having surgery in the hospital, etc. Lopez, that is, I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, it was a solid victory. He won the fight. You know, I felt he did more than enough to just edge it and beat Lomachenko, and he won. Okay. However, Teofimo Lopez, after that fight, is the very definition of a fighter allowing his ego to get away with him, to the point where it brought him to his downfall. Right? This guy afterwards was talking all that smack, especially to Devin Haney, who was trying to make Undisputed with him. And no, Teofimo was not the Undisputed. He was the unified champion. That franchise belt does not count. I don't care what anyone says. Okay? He had an opportunity. The IBF gave him two choices. Fight Devin Haney for the Undisputed Championship of the world and unify with Devin Haney. Or take your mandatory challenger, which was George Kambosos. And he opted to take the George Kambosos route and the mandatory challenger route instead of fighting Devin Haney. Hope that makes sense to me. Like, really. Then he was like having all these problems with Top Rank, saying that he should be paid a lot more money, blah, blah, blah. You know how this is going to go, right? His fight goes up for purse bids with George Kambosos. Thriller wins that purse bid. I think they bid something like 6 million, 7 million, a lot of money. Eddie Hearn came in at second, I think, with 4.2 million, and Top Rank came in at third. So Thriller won that. Then they were talking about him and his dad. Don't get me started on his dad as well, bloody hell, right? Him and his dad start boasting and bragging how they're going to do 2 million pay-per-view buys. His dad, remember when his dad was saying, "Dude, man, we got J-Lo. We got J-Lo. J-Lo's going to be performing. That's why it's going to do 2 million pay-per-view buys. It's going to be an event, man." Yeah. I know he doesn't sound like that, but I'm just taking a piss. But but that's what they were saying. Like, they're going to do like Floyd Mayweather pay-per-view buys or something. Yeah. That went on for a while. It was supposed to happen in Australia or something, and then it was pulled back, or whatever the problem was. In the end, obviously, oh yeah, I forgot. It was put off for a while, wasn't it? Because apparently, what's his face? Teofimo Lopez got COVID, right? And then he went. Funny enough, a couple of days later, he took pictures with his wife in Italy or something like that. Don't know how that works out, but anyway. Okay, but anyway, after that, it falls apart. Thriller pull out from their purse bid. They said that we're not interested. We don't think it's financially viable. We don't want to do it anymore. So naturally, it goes over to the next highest purse bid, which was Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn obviously puts the fight on the zone. Naturally, why would he not? It was them who put the bid in. And he fights George Kambosos on the zone. Absolutely, congratulations to, I'm going to say this to you. Congratulations, George Kambosos. Great fight. Won the fight fair and square, in my opinion. Right? I don't think anyone doubts that. Okay? However, it was what was going on in Teofimo's corner that concerned me. Apparently, he got rid of his trainer and put his dad back in charge because apparently he'd run out of money and they were trying to cut and save him money. All right? And Teofimo Sr. was giving the worst advice to Teofimo Jr. in between rounds. Telling him, "Oh, you won that round. Yeah, you got him, son. Yeah. Just put it on him. Put it on him. Yeah, but be careful. Put it on him, but be careful. Put it on him, but be careful. Don't overcommit. But yeah, go after him. Go for the knockout." It's giving him mixed messages, stupid things like that. That's not exactly what he said, but you get what I mean. All right? It was the worst advice, the worst bit of trading I've seen in some time. Yeah, coaching I've seen in some time. Giving his son mixed signals, sending him out there all confused and dazed. And in the end, he got beat. Fair and square. Then didn't want to admit he got beat. Even said it in the ring that he felt he won. Blah, blah, blah. Referenced that, the ref put my hand up first. Well, I've seen that happen loads of times. Referees make mistakes sometimes like that. It's no biggie. It's nothing to read into. But he did, obviously. Then afterwards, his dad was saying that, You know, DAZN screwed him and his son, etc. Like as if the fix was in, basically. Basically turned around and said that if the fight had happened on Top Rank with Bob Arum, said this wouldn't have happened. So basically what you're saying is that if you with Top Rank and Bob Arum for the fight against Kambosos, what, Bob would have put the fix in to make sure your son would have won? Is that what you're saying? Like, listen to what he was saying. Like, that's how it comes off. Absolute nonsense, making all the excuses. Then turned around and said, oh, I've been training my son for too long, keeping him at 135. I moved him up to I'm going to move him up to 140, where I believe he'll get beat by Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor is the best 140 pounder on the planet, in my opinion. That's it. You know, I do have, there are some things about Josh Taylor on a personal note I don't like about him, but I'll table that for another video. But, and it's not to do with boxing. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. But I have to admit, he is the best 140 pounder, no doubt about it. And he, in my opinion, he'll smash Teofimo Lopez. Okay? But if you knew you've been holding your son back for so long, you should have moved him up then. Surely. Alright? But at the same time, you know, this is what Teofimo does. Teofimo, even, you know, if you look at how he dealt with Devin Haney, you know, could have made that fight. Could have made the undisputed fight, chose not to. But this is what I'm talking about. This is a great example when a fighter allows his ego to get away with him. And I'm a little bit worried that George Kambosos is going down that route as well. But again, I'll talk about that a little later on. But, like, that was just absolute shocking what happened with Teofimo Lopez in such a short space of time after winning the Lomachenko fight. And this is what I'm saying, man. Fighters need to be careful they don't let their egos get away with them. Yeah? Because that's what could happen to you. You rise quickly and then you fall hard. So, look, I don't know what Teofimo Lopez is really going to do next. I don't really think he's going to, unless Josh Taylor moves up to 147, I don't see him becoming a champion at 140 until Josh Taylor moves on, because I think Josh Taylor would just destroy him, in my opinion. That's just my personal opinion. Right, who's next? Ryan Garcia. Listen, I know Ryan Garcia suffers from mental illnesses. Is it anxiety and depression he deals with? So there's a lot of people who'll be giving him a stick about that. I'm not going to be one of them. It's a serious thing. And if the guy says he struggles with that sort of problem, he struggles with it. A lot of people out there are saying that he's dodging fights and pulling out of fights, etc., because, you know, he's making these excuses about having these mental illnesses. I'm not one of them, all right? However, I'm going to talk about Ryan Garcia, and I honestly question whether Ryan Garcia believes he's ready for the big fights. I think a little bit with him is he feels he has to talk these big fights because he gets asked those questions. All right, but generally deep down inside, I don't believe he's ready. He thinks he's ready for it. Right? He at one point was, I believe he was, what's his name? Devin Haney's mandatory challenger after he beat Luke Campbell, wasn't he? And that fight should have happened. And it didn't happen because he started chasing Javonte Davis. Then Leonard Ellerby was going to make that fight with Javonte Davis and Ryan Garcia. And then he started running off to this fantasy fight with Manny Pacquiao that he made up. I guess he made up. Right? Saying that, oh, Pacquiao's interested in fighting me and we're going to go down that route and a fight at 140 and blah, 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 whatever it was. And then Pacquiao's team was like, no, that's not happening. And then suddenly Ryan Garcia disappeared for a bit because he was having issues with his mental health. I honestly believe Ryan Garcia is not ready for the big fights. He feels he's not ready for the big fights. If you're not ready for the big fights, then just keep your mouth shut. There's no shame in you saying, actually, hey, I'm not interested in those fights just yet. They will happen. But first, there's other things I want to do first. I want to spend more time. I want to get more rounds in. I want to work on my technique a little bit better before I take those big fights on. You know? I don't know if there were talk against Teofimo Lopez. There probably was. But I think there's a lot of hot air with Ryan Garcia right now. And he's doing it again this year. You know, he's talking about, again, he's going to fight this person, that person, etc., 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 saying that this is going to be the year for him. Let's hope so, yeah? Because he's done a lot of talking already and he's not backed it up. So let's hope he's in a better place mentally and he's focused. Not only that, he's also announced that he'll be splitting from Eddie Reynoso as his head trainer and joining, what's his name? The Joe Guzman? Yeah. That's an interesting one. He said it's just about timing, etc. He said he did it. If you go on Fight Up and put up him, you know, a recording of his live stream where he talks about it, his split. He said it's nothing personal or anything like that. It didn't really make sense to me what he's saying. The rationale behind it didn't make sense at all. A lot of people feel, I might have to agree with them, that Canelo Alvarez, while he was taking a break with his mental health issues, was saying they were telling him to come to the gym, come to the gym, come to the gym. And what they were saying was, what Canelo turned around and said was that he's wasting his talent and his time. You've got to take this sport seriously. You've got to dedicate yourself to it. You've got to get to the gym every single day, which is absolutely right. And I think I might agree with some people on this one that he might have taken that to heart a little bit. But it wasn't him. It wasn't Canelo trying to belittle him. It was Canelo trying to say, hey, come on. You know, he's trying to give him some good advice. Like, come on, get to the gym. Let's start doing this. Let's kickstart your career. You know, and I'm guessing and Eddie Reynoso was the same. He was saying the same thing, I think. And I think Ryan's probably taken that a little bit to heart and thought, you know what? I can't take this constructive criticism. I'm going to move on and fight with and train with someone else. I mean, wouldn't surprise me. This generation is full of it. This era is full of it, where people are just, they can't take constructive criticism. You know, they take it as negativity, and it's not. But that is this era, this generation, especially this young generation now. They can't take it. So there is that theory, and I tend to agree with that a little bit. However, Teofimo Lopez has come out recently and he spoke to ES News, Mr. Eddie and turned around and said to him that he may be joining Team Canelo. And he believes that's the reason Ryan Garcia has left Team Canelo, because he's heard that I might be joining Team Canelo. However, he said nothing's confirmed. He's got to talk about his dad. His dad's always going to be his head trainer and all this sort of stuff. Personally, I think he needs to get rid of his dad. His dad's a problem. Yeah, I think Senior needs to go. Yeah, just because he's your dad doesn't mean he's good for you. Yeah, and I don't believe he is. That's just my personal opinion from what I've seen. Anyway, that's what Teofimo says. So that could be another reason, if that's true. They might have heard about it and thought, oh, you lot betraying me, going with Teofimo Lopez, blah, blah, blah. This is a guy I might fight one day, etc., etc. Yeah? Whatever it is, all I know is I personally don't think Ryan Garcia believes he's ready for those fights. He may prove me wrong. I might be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I may be wrong. Yeah, I'm just going off what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling. Yeah? And that's how it looks to me. But only time will tell. Okay, so moving on to Mr. Devin Haney. Devin Haney definitely for me is the most avoided fighter at 135 out of all the lightweights, right? He is definitely the most avoided guy. Yeah. First of all, when he was Lomachenko's mandatory challenger to his WBC title, Lomachenko and his team petitioned to the WBC to make Lomachenko the franchise champion, which they did, which means he vacated the WBC world title, and then the WBC promoted Devin Haney to WBC from the mandatory position to, and the number one contender, I think, to world champion. Okay, which was a mistake because a lot of people started taking the mick out of Devin Haney, saying you haven't earned that belt. And Teofimo came out and said, quoted it as the email champion, if you remember right. Yeah, so that hurt Devin because they should have really made Devin fight in a vacant title fight, in my opinion. Anyway, that's the first example of where he's being dodged. Now, however, I feel like there might be some business elements involved in that reason that happened. Is it out because maybe Lomachenko didn't fancy it against Devin Haney. I don't know if that's true or not, but I definitely believe that it might have been a business move on the behalf of Bob Arum, Top Rank at ESPN. They don't want Lomachenko fighting on DAZN. Now, if Lomachenko kept his world title, WBC world title, and took on Devin Haney, I could imagine that would have gone to purse bids. And they would have been worried that DAZN, with the way they're spending money, Eddie Hearn would have outbid them for that fight, which means Lomachenko would have had to fall on DAZN against Devin Haney and defended his belt against Devin Haney on DAZN. There was a chance of that could have possibly happened. So rather than take that risk, they said, no, Lomachenko's an ESPN fighter. He's a top-ranked fighter. He is not fighting on DAZN. We're not feeding the competition. WBC, make him the franchise champion, please. And they did make him the franchise champion. Hence, he vacated his world title and Devin Haney was promoted to world champion. See where I'm going with this? So I think there might have been a business element involved in that, where they didn't want the fight against Haney, if that makes sense. There might be an element where Lomachenko didn't want to have that fight against Haney. There might have been. I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying there might have been an element to that. But I think the real reason was probably more of a business decision from Bob Arum, Top Rank, and ESPN, if I'm honest with you. And of course, Teofimo Lopez, I already talked about it. He was given an option. You could fight the IBF, and he said you could fight for the undisputed championship of the world and unify against Devin Haney, or fight George Kambosos, and we know which one he picked. You know, I don't think I need to say much on that, more on that. Okay, despite all the hot air that was coming out of Teofimo Lopez. Okay, so look, this is why I say Devin Haney's probably one of the most avoided fighters in my opinion, definitely within his own division. But not only that, there's some other stuff that's come out, you know, with regards to George Kambosos. So now George Kambosos and Devin Haney have been going back and forth with each other, back and forth with one another, and they've been having this Twitter spat, who's to blame for the fight not happening, etc. Lou DiBella's come out recently saying that, well, basically George Kambosos says he wants to fight in Australia. Okay, and Lou DiBella and George Kambosos have been saying that they've got the stadium, they've got the financial backing, and you know, there's no restrictions in Australia, which isn't true, because I've been keeping a close eye on what's going on in Australia with this whole thing that's been going on for the last 2 years. And when, you know, someone from Australia, I think it was a doctor or a politician or someone said it, that it was like North Korea. That doesn't fill me with confidence that, you know, the country's fully opened and stuff like that. And it definitely isn't, from what I'm seeing on the internet. Yeah, it's not good. But anyway, that's what they're suggesting. Yeah. Lou DiBella has also turned around and said that he's got plenty of financial backers and there's plenty of broadcasters that are interested in showing George Kambosos, yeah, him fight his next fight. Okay. He's also come out and said that Eddie Hearn said we've made an offer, right? Because they were saying, where's the offer? So George Kambosos is like, where's your offer? Where's your offer? Well, if you're the A side, why are you waiting on an offer from the B side? You should be making that offer for starters. But second of all, Eddie Hearn then came out and said he made an offer. So Lou DiBella's come out now and said as well that initially he made an offer to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn has now sent a counter offer, and that counter offer was so insulting that they are now done with dealing with Devin Haney. They are moving on. And the front runner for that fight now with George Kambosos is Lomachenko. But it's also come out from Ryan Garcia's mouth, how much truth there is to this, I don't know, that DAZN are trying to make a fight with George Kambosos versus Ryan Garcia. And Ryan Garcia, when he was asked why would they cut out Devin Haney like that, he said because Devin Haney doesn't sell or move subscription numbers. He doesn't get good viewership. I do. When I fight, people subscribe to the zone. When I fight, they get viewerships. Now, there could be some element of truth to that, I don't know. But George Kambosos is got everyone interested right now. So wherever he fights, I think it's going to do well. right? So if he goes on DAZN and fights on DAZN, I'm sure the subscription numbers will go up. I'm sure the viewership will go up. So it doesn't really matter who he fights, whether it be Haney or Ryan Garcia. At the same time, going back to this whole thing between Lou DiBella and Eddie Hearn. Now, you know what I've said about Eddie Hearn in the past when it came to the AJ Wilder situation, yeah? Right? And if you're new to the channel, go check out the playlist. There's a whole playlist to it. It breaks it all down for you, my viewpoint of that whole situation. But at the same time, I don't know who do I trust more, should I say? And I probably trust Lou DiBella. I don't trust any promoters or any managers in this game. They're all corrupt, all right, like politicians. Okay, but I would probably trust Lou DiBella more than I trust Eddie Hearn, if I'm honest with you. Eddie Hearn always seems to come across these sort of problems all the time. Currently, there's that sort of problem right now with the whole Dillian White, Tyson Fury situation, but I'm not going to talk about that today. I'll talk about that on another podcast. And it sounds a lot familiar to the Wilder AJ situation. But anyway, my point is, who knows what's happening behind the scenes? Yeah. You know, 1 minute Lou DiBella is saying, hey, we sent a contract, but then George Kambosos on the flip side is saying, hey, we're waiting for an offer. Where's your offer from your boss, Eddie Hearn? Eddie Hearn says he sent it. Then Lou DiBella says, well, I sent one first and he sent me a counter offer. It's a complete utter mess. No one's really, there's no consistency in anyone's story. There's holes in each side. Lou DiBella's and Eddie Hearn's story. And even in George Kambosos' story. Yeah, it's not matching up in some places. Let's be honest. Yeah, like I said, Lou said he sent an offer. But then when Lou sent that offer, George Kambosos was still asking, hey, where's the offer? Where's the offer? So if you know your promoter has sent an offer, why are you asking that question? You should be saying, where's your reply? Have you seen the offer we've sent? You get what I mean? So there's a bit of, there's something going on both sides. I don't know whether they're looking to make a better deal with Lomachenko. Maybe Kambosos is seeing that as a better fight. I can see why he would see that as a better fight. It's Lomachenko after all. Let's be honest, yeah? So I get it. So maybe that's the avenue they're going down. On the flip side, is Eddie Hearn playing games like he always does on the other side? Who knows? Yeah? But definitely Haney's the one who's paying the price, in my opinion. He's the one, he's like piggy in the middle, in my opinion. And his career isn't moving because he's not fighting anyone. He's not getting the fights he wants. Similar to like a Demetrius Andrade. But that's the way I see it anyway with the whole Devin Haney situation. I honestly believe he is the most avoided fighter at the moment in that division. Without a doubt. Without a shadow of doubt. Last but not least, I'm going to talk about a few more names. Javonte Davis. Listen, I like Javonte Davis. I like watching him fight. Yeah? You know, he's fought Leo Santa Cruz recently as well in the last couple of fights. He's looking to fight Rolly Romero next. After that was pulled, and he just fought, what's his name? I can't remember the last games. But I do believe that Javonte Davis now needs to start mixing up with the names that I've just spoken about. Garcias, the Haneys, etc., Lomachenkos. I don't know how much longer Eddie Hearn and Leonard Ellerby can keep him away from those fights. They've got to happen. You can't go your whole career not fighting those guys in and around you. You know? You're not going to get any credit for that. Yeah? Don't get me wrong. He's a really good fighter. I love watching him fight. I've got nothing... Look, I enjoy all these guys fight. I think they're all good fighters. Yeah? But I've got my criticism. And I think Javonte Davis needs to start. He's got that... Apparently he's got that star power in America. I'm not in the States, so I wouldn't know. But if he has, then he needs to start mixing up with these guys. You know what I mean? Can't just keep fighting the other guys and staying on the other side of the street, as Errol Spence Jr. would say. But I want to finish it off with the two guys that I'm feeling a lot right now, that I'm really excited about, that I think are going to be like potentially the future of the sport. Shakur Stevenson and Chris Colbert. Yeah, I really like these two guys in terms of their style of fighting, the skill sets they bring, you know, the ring intelligence that they bring, the attitude, the way they carry themselves. I think these guys could be potentially two big stars for the future. And they've recently, like, Chris Colbert recently in the last year or so, I think it was the last 6 months or so, said that he felt that Paul was a bad boy. Gave him his credits. He goes, but you know what? I beat him. And I like that kind of talk. I like that kind of confidence. Shakur thinks he could beat Colbert, and they've had a little bit of a spat a few months ago. I remember because I put it up on my Instagram page. But I kind of don't want to see that fight just yet. As much as I want to see it, I don't want to see it. I like to see those two do a little bit more in terms of their resumes first. I know Shakur's already working in that direction. He just fought Jamel Herring. He's now going to fight Oscar Valdez. The drug cheat Oscar Valdez, I might add. Yeah, that guy who claimed he tested positive because he drank some herbal teas. And those herbal teas caused him to test positive. You know, these excuses from these drug cheats get even worse. I'm not going to go deep into this, but they just get worse and worse. If it's not contaminated meat anymore, it's now herbal teas. Really, like seriously, read the packaging, send it off to VADA, ask them, can I drink this? Can I drink that? Let's be real, it wasn't the herbal teas. We know he was doing something dirty. Yeah, the dirty fighter. It's that simple. But Shakur Stevenson's going to fight him now, and that's going to be an interesting fight. And I think it's April 30th. I'm looking forward to that. Really am. It's a shame it collides with Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. So I'm going to have to pick which one I want to watch. But I'm definitely going to go for the Shakur Stevenson Oscar Valdez fight, no doubt about it. And I'll just watch the other one on rerun. But yeah, and I like Chris Colbert a lot as well. I think these two have got potentially, you know, the ability to go on to be real stars in sport, boxing. No doubt about it. But those are probably my guys, I suppose, in a sense. Like, I'm not a fanboy, but I just admire what they're bringing. And I like those two kids a lot. And I think they've got the potential to be superstars. But they've got to prove it. They've got to earn it. They've got to build resumes. They've got to have good, strong names on their records. You know, otherwise, you know what I'm like? I won't give you any credit if you don't start building and if you don't build a resume that's strong. That's just the way I am. Okay, that's all I really had to say in terms of, you know, the lightweights, the 130 pounders, the 135 pounders. Didn't really have to say much more than that. Again, apologise if I'm a little bit rusty, but it has been a while since I've done one of these, so you have to bear with me while I get back into the flow of things. Planning to do a fight night preview video on Amir Khan versus Kell Brook. Talk about that a little bit more later. Hopefully in the next couple of days I'll have that up for you as well. But look, really enjoyed being back. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, like, share and subscribe. And until next time, this is Cypherbox reminding you to keep it real.
I was gonna rip his heart out, I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror, no, I'm Alexander, he's no Alexander. I'm the best ever, there's never been anybody ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw, there's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious, I want your heart, I wanna eat his children. Praise be to Allah.